Okay, hello again, everybody. So we got another awesome movie to talk about with you guys today. So I decided, last week we talked about a movie that kind of flew a little bit under the radar, didn't do great at the box office, but kind of has a following. This is another film based on a really big property, based on the novels, or I guess you could say really it's like pulp novels of Edgar Rice Burroughs, the John Carter series, John Carter of Mars, The Princess of Mars, stuff like that. And yeah, so we're gonna review John Carter from 2012, the Disney film that was directed by Andrew Stanton, who is one of the founding members. What they call them the brain trust of Pixar. So these guys are basically collectively responsible for creating Toy Story and creating A Bug's Life and all of the films that we know and love Pixar for, basically. And so, yeah, Andrew Stanton, he directed A Bug's Life. He directed Wall-E, I believe, was like the big one, and Finding Nemo. So this is a guy who has a very strong pedigree, at least in the animated sphere, right? I mean, I think Wall-E is one of the greatest films I've ever seen.
I love that movie. I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, I was blown away because the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes is like a silent film.
Mm-hmm. It's just him.
It's just this little and then we learn to love this robot that doesn't talk or do anything, and it's obsessed with plants.
Exactly. Wall-E doesn't even have to talk. Mm-hmm. First of all, he's adorable.
He is adorable.
He's got those big eyes, and I read somewhere once that big eyes on something is actually it's like a trigger for humans. We find it very cute. So he's got these big eyes, and he's kind of a little rust bucket, and he's just moseying. He kind of hums. Wall-E has these little
yeah.
And he's very organized. He likes things the way that they are. He's just, he has his little lunchbox almost that he carries around, and it's just cute. There's just something immediately likable about this tiny little robot who's just literally roaming around a city of trash.
Yeah, and he's so the fact that again, this is classic Pixar kind of stuff. Immediately make you empathize with this thing that is not human, but you immediately understand his world, right? Mm-hmm. He's a little trash compactor, but the world that he exists in is a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, to humans, it's completely unlivable, and that's why everybody left. But to him, it's home, and he lives in his little trailer, and he's got his little trinkets, and there's things that he clearly emphasizes are special to him. He even has a pet, the little bug thing that's running around. He even has a pet.
It's a cockroach. Yeah, he's a pet cockroach. Yeah.
They made cockroaches lovable.
Yeah, a cockroach, what we consider the most disgusting, thing on the planet.
I actually took care of cockroaches in high school. It's a long story, but we did have 2 cockroaches in our science class.
That's cool. I mean, that's again, they'll when the humans are gone, they'll still be here.
They'll be around.
They are a very efficient creature. But yeah, I just bring that up because again, this guy has made some of the best films of all time, and this guy knows how to do story, how to create good cinematic moments.
Yeah.
And so Disney gave him the $260 million.
Have fun.
And total control, and this is what we got. So, unfortunately, this film did not do well at the box office. It kind of tanked big time. They were saying Disney lost $200 million on this film, which is, wow, that's a lot of money.
And I read that a lot of that came down to how it was marketed, or the fact that there was no, because I'm going to be honest, I remember seeing one trailer for this movie. One in months leading up to its release. And then that was it. I saw one trailer. I may have been I don't remember if I had already gone to the movies and that's where I saw it, or if I had seen it just on Twitter and during, my scrolling. But yeah, there was no marketing to this movie whatsoever, and that was Andrew Stanton's choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and originally he wanted to do like no name actors entirely, no marketing for the movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much going against every Disney rule. Like Disney is known for, casting some, unknowns every now and then, but it has to be against a backdrop of stars. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We have to bring them in some way to see this new guy. And yeah, when I read that, I was like, why did you not want people to see your movie?
Yeah, the marketing was kind of disaster because, again, like Disney has a really strong marketing team. They're known for like blasting people with their product.
We find it annoying, but we go see it because they're telling us to. Exactly.
I remember, recently Mulan came out, and I think, it was my other co-host. He was talking about like people he knew, like his parents were like, "Oh, how can I watch Mulan?" And that just shows you like they have a direct funnel into people's brain with their marketing machine. Yep. And if they want to just turn it on, you're at least gonna know about their movie. You may not like it or you may not be for you. You will know it exists, and that's a big part of the fight. But yeah, I think people just basically didn't know what this film was.
They didn't know what it was about. It's a very old property that I learned as well, because I didn't know that it was so old. Like this is borderline ancient. Like
yes.
Like we're in 2020 and 1930s it came out or something like that.
Well, so this film came out in 2012. It actually came out 100 years after what it was based on.
Okay, so there you go. Like this is an extremely old property that I'm assuming does have some hardcore fans associated with it. I wouldn't know because it wasn't marketed, so nobody was excited about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to mention, I also read that most of the source material wasn't used from the original novels or pulp magazines or whatever. But yeah, I felt like they wanted it to just stand on its own merits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it didn't because nobody knew it was out.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems, right? And I think when we get to the end, we'll talk about where we think this film might have gone wrong, where their planning may have been wrong, because Stanton said that he wanted to do a trilogy of these films.
Yeah.
Which I can kind of see. I can kind of see where he was trying to go. But, this is kind of like the classic, this kind of reminds me of in 2017 when they did The Mummy with Tom Cruise that just blew up in their face. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to have this universe where this Johnny Depp is going to be this and he's going to be that and this and that. And then it's like, oh, the first movie sucked. So that's dead.
Yeah, stop trying to restart the dark universe because as much as Guillermo del Toro will want us to believe everyone still loves monsters, I don't think anyone gives a shit about monster movies anymore. I mean, like classic monster movies. Because the old ones are fine the way they are. They are good. Nobody is terrified by mummies. Like, anymore, yeah. I feel like it's in the 1920s or 30s when that movie came out, people were still digging up mummies, fresh mummies.
Yeah.
Like, Valley of Kings was still, like, a novel thing.
Yeah.
People were still, like, stealing mummy shit and bringing it back to their palaces in the UK and shit. Like, it's not scary anymore. True. I've never found Mummy scary, personally. Like, I love the movie The Mummy, obviously, with Brendan Fraser. That's a classic. But it's not scary because he's a mummy. Like, no.
He has superpowers.
Like, yeah, it's scary because he can turn himself into a sand dune or something. It's scary because he's a giant sandstorm that can swallow a plane whole. Yeah. Like he can suck your life force from your body. That's why it's creepy. It's not creepy because he's wrapped in freaking, like, cloth and shit.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Boris, you had your time. It's over.
It's just like, if you think about, like, a mummy is just a bad zombie. It's just like a crappy take on a zombie. Right?
Cut his freaking head off and call it a day.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I'm over zombies. I'm over mummies. They're not scary. Sorry to anyone out there who does have a phobia of mummies, but
yeah. Yeah, so this movie, and I also read like at one point they wanted to have Robert Zemeckis do this film, and he said there's no point. George Lucas already basically took all the good stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's
so what's the point?
A lot of the source material. Maybe that's why, because literally, George Lucas had just pilfered everything.
Yeah, he took everything. Yeah, I mean, and this kind of like this happens. Like sometimes the cultural moment for a piece of art passes.
Yes.
And the other thing too is and again we'll come to this at the end, but I feel like with this you kind of have. I think you have to do a real adaptation. You have to do like, what does John Carter look like in the 21st century? If you could possibly do the world building the same way, where you could say like, a 21st century person, like a person that we really connect with, not some, as we'll see, John Carter is a is a Confederate, ex-Confederate soldier. Instead of that, have some 21st century person get sent to Mars, and it's like underground in Mars there's this whole civilization that we can't see, and there's all these warring factions, maybe something like that.
Underground would have been so cool, because like obviously we know on the surface of Mars, hey, there's nothing around, the party's over, but then they would have receded back into like the core or something like that. That's
yeah.
Now, and that's where like the battles continue to rage, and maybe there's a possibility of maybe someone's working on a way to regain, access to the surface, and maybe we can find a way to save the planet. It would. It's just the flashbacks or the story of him, looking for gold and stuff like that was kind of compelling. But I also was just kind of like, can we just get to Mars now?
Yeah, exactly. Because look, we know what Mars looks like as 21st. Like in 1915, they had no idea anything could be there. They had no idea. It's just a little dot, and you just look at it in a telescope. Like, we have had a rover on the planet. Nothing's there, right? Nothing's there. But back then they had a more romantic vision of what could be on the moon, what could be on Mars, and these other Venus. Edgar Rice Burroughs also wrote some like sort of similar fiction about people on Venus. And that stuff is cool and romantic, but for us, we kind of we're a little bit more sophisticated in our understanding of the universe and our place in it. And
yeah, it's like, I know there's not 8 foot tall 4-armed aliens on Mars. I know it.
Oh man, I love
how everyone's just like thinks he's so special because he can jump real high. It's like,
he can jump.
It's like that. I don't know if you ever watched Samurai Jack. Yeah, jump. But there's a moment in Samurai Jack when I think it's Goku is the villain, and he says to Samurai Jack, he's like, "You can fly," and Jack's like, "No, I can just jump really high."
God, I love Samurai Jack.
Yeah, I mean, and John's like stronger because now he's on the moon and stuff like that. But but still, it's like he can just jump really, really high. That's a superpower.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. He's just like jumping. He's strong for whatever reason, right? Okay. Well, so let's get into the plot of this film. Let's kind of talk about this, and then see how we feel about everything. Much like last week, this one has a kind of cool opening logo. So like they had the Disney logo in like this, the reddish orangish hue, kind of like Mars. So that was kind of cool. Getting us ready. And then there's this voiceover from what's his name? I forget. It's Willem Dafoe. Yeah, so Willem Dafoe, who plays an alien in this. So he's doing this kind of voiceover about like, it's the planet, the red planet Mars, called Barsoom. That's what we call it, us aliens. And
I also really like that they have their own names for the planets, because they're like, they don't just call it Earth, or they don't just call it Venus or Jupiter. They have their own little astrology thing going on, or astronomy going on with it. I like that. Barsoom. That's pretty cool. I liked it.
That is cool. Yeah. I forget what they call Earth. We'll probably come to that later.
Jasum?
Jasum. Yeah, you might be right. Jasum. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we see in this movie is like a really cool airship battle. So there's these airships, and this is another thing too, right? Like, so they have advanced technology on the moon. It's not even like on Mars. I mean, it's not even like they're just people there. There are people there, and they got these freaking like
light ships or something.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
tell
it's
if
like
they travel by light or if they travel by. But I don't remember seeing a scene on this where there was too many nighttime scenes or anything. But yeah, they travel by light and by like air. They don't have warp drive yet, but you know. Maybe they never got there because we know that there's nothing on Mars now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of cool. I liked the design of it. They're like crystallized almost, but not. But yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, it had those like kind of solar sail looking things, like the wings. They're kind of made out of glass. And yeah, there's these factions. One is blue, the other is red, and they're in this air battle. I thought that scene was pretty cool. Like, I think the effects in this, especially like when you get into the airships and stuff like that, they're really well done. They're really well done, and you can tell the budget went to that, and it really paid off.
Yeah, I think they look pretty good. I think the movie in general looks pretty good. But there's a lot to it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So then they're fighting, and then so basically we're following this guy Sab Than, who's played by Dominic West. I mean, most people know him because he was in The Wire, basically. And he's done some other. Basically, after that, he just did a bunch of villain roles in films and other stuff.
Yeah, he always kind of plays the same guy. What confused me though about this movie is that, so it starts with like, I feel like we should be rooting for Sab Than. It feels like we're supposed to be in the beginning, especially with the exposition given by the Willem Dafoe character or by the Willem Dafoe voiceover. But then most of the way, like not even halfway through the film, they kind of flip it on you. Like, no, those are the bad guys. These are the real good guys. And it's like, I feel like you should have set that up just a little bit better, because now I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be rooting for.
It is a bit weird that they start with him, and then, you know, so he gets into this fight, and then he's about to lose, and then some other people show up, 3 wise men looking people. And it's Mark Strong and 2 other bald dudes.
It's just Mark Strong, basically.
Yeah, it's Mark Strong. Who again is another guy at this junction in his career was like typecast into playing these villains. So you're kind of like, okay, I can't trust this guy.
Exactly.
And so then they give him this weapon, this like crystalline weapon that projects this energy. And then they basically tell him, hey, if you work for us, we'll allow you to rule Barsoom, and, you know, just do what we tell you. And he's like, okay.
The one crystal glove to rule them all.
Yeah. But, you know, much like the ring, like you don't really control the ring.
It controls you.
Yeah, it controls you. Saruman controls the ring.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Was he good before? Was it the crystal and the immortal bald dudes who made him evil? Like, was he always bad? Who am I rooting for?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a little muddled, and I don't really like those people that gave him the weapon. They're called like Therns, is what they're called. I really don't like them as a villain. They just feel a little too much for me.
They're like borderline Sith almost, but then they're not. They can
do everything. They can shapeshift.
They can shapeshift. It seems like they could teleport. They can travel from Mars to freaking Earth, seemingly with no issue whatsoever. And I never learn where their power comes from. Like, maybe they were setting something up, because I feel like, yes, they wanted this to be a franchise. Maybe that was just the setup. But why? Like, what are you? Who are you? Oh, you've been around.
Yeah, who are you?
Dawn of the frickin' universe. Cool. And all you've been doing was just fucking with the little people this whole time? Like,
yeah. What we learn later on is that they just exist to leech off of different civilizations until they collapse.
Yeah,
just take resources and then bounce and then go somewhere else.
Yeah, so is that what they get their immortality from? Just from being, I don't know, solar vampires or something? Like, they're just a bunch of bald dickheads. Is there more of them? Is there a planet of Therns?
Right? Or did they destroy their own planet and there's only... Yeah, there's so many questions, right?
Yeah, it's who, what, where, when, why. Like...
Mm-hmm. But overall, I don't really like them as a villain. I'm cool with the humanoid warlord on another planet being a villain. That that's kind of a classic story thing. Like some power monger guy meets up with our reluctant hero, and they have to fight each other, and then that makes sense. But throwing in the weird alien shape-shifting, teleporting, infinite energy, I don't know.
Yeah, and there's one part of this movie towards the end that really bugs me, but like we'll get to that. This movie was 2 hours.
Yeah, this was a lot. So then we go to John Carter on Earth, and it's like the 1880s or something like that. And so he's dead. There's an intricate funeral for him. They say that he's buried in a tomb, and the only way no one can get in, but someone can get out. You can unlock it from the inside, which is weird. And so
he didn't want to be embalmed. He didn't want to have an autopsy. I'm like, okay, so he's not dead, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. But it's some intricate thing to... Why? Well, we'll find out later. And so he gives his estate and this journal of all of his stuff to Edgar Rice Burroughs, the actual person.
The kid from Spy Kids.
Yeah, and then so the journal has all its adventures, and then Edgar Rice Burroughs start reading it, and then we get a flashback. So now we're into the story.
Yep.
Pretty much, and it's John Carter, and he's looking for gold, prospecting, he's doing stuff. He goes to a bar, gets into a fight, typical Western kind of stuff. This guy, Colonel Powell, picks him up, tries to recruit him into the cavalry. We get this kind of funny scene where they're listing all his accolades, and every time they list stuff, he tries to run away.
Mm-hmm. I did actually like that scene. And then my favorite was when he just jumped out the window.
Yeah, he jumped out the window.
I actually did really like that scene. It was funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Because that's a great way to portray a really reluctant person who is just like, no, I'm willing to throw myself out a glass window. Get away from you.
He's like, no, I am not. I have no interest in whatever you're trying to sell me. Yeah, and that's the setup, right? John Carter is a reluctant hero. He just wants to, he has a past that we're going to get into that sort of scarred him, but he just wants to be done with this whole thing and get his little piece of Arizona and not mess with anyone else. But they're not having it. They put him in prison. And he escapes prison, and he gets on a horse, and he's riding away. And then the Apaches, he meets with them, and then so it's the Apaches and the kind of Union guys, the military. They get into this sort of confrontation, and then there's a firefight. And so during the firefight, John escapes into a cave. Mm-hmm. And then he meets one of the Therns. Dude just teleports into the cave.
Yeah, it just seemed way too convenient that he just happened to be there when John showed up. Was it because it's a special cave? It's a special portal to Barsoom or something like that? And he was like, oh, somebody's at the portal. I should go check on this or something. There's no explanation as to why that Thern was even there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's not even any kind of prophecy that's part of this movie. There's no chosen one element that I was kind of expecting. We needed to guard this portal because our sages from 1,000 years ago predicted an Earthman would come and liberate Mars or something.
Yeah.
There's none of that. So there wasn't even that part of it to be oh, that makes sense why that Thern was there at this point in time and on Earth at this time in history. He just happens to be there and is really easily killed, even though he has superpowers.
Exactly, yeah. He teleports there. They kind of get into a fight. And then John shoots the guy and kills him. And then, the guy's muttering some stuff. And then John grabs the guy's medallion and says Barsoom, and that's it. He's on Mars.
Snap, crackle, and pop, honey. You just traveled light years to another planet.
Yep. And we'll get into like how this stuff works in this universe, because it's very interesting, like how this light speed travel works, because it's not exactly how you would think. But
no, so they don't have warp drive, but they have like basically like light speed.
Yeah.
In a way, without ships.
Yeah. Yeah, so John's on Mars and the gravity's different, so he's struggling to figure out, the physics of how to be there. He's jumping too far, and I don't know. It's kind of funny, this whole scene.
It's kind of a comical scene of him trying to like get his Mars legs, And
yeah, exactly.
Like that, but it's just a montage of Taylor Taylor Kitsch just falling down a bunch of times.
Yeah, it's just him falling and like woo, leapfrogging. Some funny stuff. Yeah.
Oh my.
And then he runs into these green aliens called Tharks, and so this is where we meet.
I said I love the Tharks.
Yeah, they're cool. They're very cool. And we meet Tars Tarkas, and that's the character that was doing the voiceover at the beginning, who's Willem Dafoe, voiced and played by Willem Dafoe. And so Tars Tarkas at this point, he's their Jeddak, which is basically their emperor, their leader, clan leader.
Like I like general or something like that. But yeah, I like Tars Tarkas. I like that he immediately wants to befriend John.
Yeah.
Like his first instinct is like, this is really cool, but the best way for me to do this is not to try and capture him, is to let's be friends. And I like that first attempt at communication between the two of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, can you jump again? Because that was really cool. Like he's so enamored with John when they first meet. He's like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. He's like, jump. Like this, jump. Yeah, it's funny. And it was funny too, because like they're trying to communicate, and he's like, I'm Tars Tarkas. Like, who are you? I'm John Carter of Virginia. Oh, Virginia.
Virginia.
And then they all call him Virginia.
Like, no, I'm from Virginia. Virginia.
Yeah.
It's very, very cute.
Yeah. So that was, again, these are things that this film is so all over the place, because some things really work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this stuff was cool. This stuff worked, but not enough. I don't know if enough of it worked. We'll get into that later. But this was a scene really kind of built that character development and made you you're invested in this relationship already, right? And so then we cut to it's this other city, Helium. And this woman, Deja, she's like a scientist or something. She's their lead scientist. And so she's discovered this thing called the blue light of the ninth ray. So I believe that the blue light is how the Tharks or whatever get their power. They harness that in order to do all the stuff they do.
The Tharks or the Therns?
The Therns, I'm sorry, the Therns, yeah.
No, definitely. That's how they harness everything. That's how they can travel. And she's trying to figure it out. She is the princess of Mars, basically.
She is the princess of Mars, yes. And she's smart and she's a scientist, and she's, as we'll see, very got the she's not the damsel in this film. But yeah, in this scene she gets sabotaged by, again, one of these Therns that they're everywhere, right?
Well, we only see 3 of them, but then they're at other places at the same time too. So it's kind of hard to put a number on how many there really are of them.
I know.
And where do they, if one dies, do they get replaced? Okay, Jeb, you're getting the promotion today. Where do they come from? Do they just float around in the ether until they're ding, oh, I got to punch in. Somebody just got whacked.
They remind me of those things from Dark City, those creatures from Dark City that ran the city. That's kind of what it feels like. But Dark City was a little bit cooler than this, I'd say.
A little bit. I haven't seen that. Oh my god, I haven't seen that in so long. I remember really liking it.
Yeah. So now her dad, so Deja's dad, what's this guy's name? Tardos Morse, wants her to marry, the name Sab Thon, in order to right. And again, another problem with this film, it's like there's just, I don't know, there's probably too many characters, right? Because like this is a little bit similar to, in a way, some of the stuff that happens in like Star Wars. But in Star Wars, right, there's like 4 characters basically, right? There's Darth Vader. Yeah, there's Darth Vader. There's Luke, Leia, Han, and then maybe the Peter Cushing character, right?
And Obi-Wan. Did you say Obi-Wan?
Yeah, and Obi-Wan. Yeah, I didn't say Obi-Wan. I should say Obi-Wan.
They're like 4 or 5 characters, roughly, that can share screen time or without one another.
Yeah. There's like 6, right? And then there's these sub-characters, and they're all confusing, weird names. And
Sabsan. It's like, let's call him Sebastian, like, because that's the name I was always expecting them to say for some reason. And then you have Deja, is that her name?
Yeah, Deja, yeah.
And her dad has a completely different last name, and it's like, okay, like maybe that's just part of the culture. That makes sense, because in like, for example, in Star Trek, the Bajorans are like Kira Nerys. Her last name is technically her first name. You go by the surname first, and then Nerys is like her personal name. So maybe it's something like that that's going on. I'm not sure, but
yeah, not sure.
It's kind of, and then there's that other guy who's like her dad's bodyguard, whose name I don't even remember.
I don't remember either.
He was kind of neat, but like didn't have enough screen time to make me actually like him. He was just like another character. Oh, her dad needs like a bodyguard, so we'll just, who's really loyal, who won't turn on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another problem, I think, is that there's too many characters and we can't really connect with them enough. I mean, there's like 4 people I think we really connect with, plus a character that doesn't really speak. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, it's like I'm confused. I'm overwhelmed already.
And again, wasn't I supposed to be rooting against Helium? Wasn't I supposed to be rooting against them? But now I'm rooting for them. Wasn't Helium the one with the giant like moving city that was destroying Mars? Like, who is the bad guy?
Yeah, who's the bad guy? What's going on? It's so confusing.
Seems to actually have the best interest of Mars at heart. God damn it! Like, is there poverty? I don't see any poverty. I don't see any like any crime. It's just these 2 assholes who think they should run Mars. Like,
yeah.
Who votes? Yeah. Who runs these things? Who's elected?
Yeah. It seems like it's just a monarchy, right? It's just a couple monarchies, basically.
Yeah, and why? You know, like they're just fighting because have they forgotten why they're fighting and this is just normal? Like, I mean, at least in like I can't believe I'm saying this, but at least in like the prequels, we got a little bit into how officials are elected on these planets. At least it gave us like a taste of like their democratic society in some way, that like Padme most likely was elected to be queen as a 13-year-old, whatever. But she became a senator. She was able to be elected to be a senator, and at least there was some explanation in that aspect. In John Carter, I don't know why these people are in charge. I don't know how it affects anything. That was my little rant about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right. And these are things that kind of come off and, you know, they just don't settle for us in the story. They just make us feel like, what's the point? What's going on?
And why is Sab wrong? Because no one's telling me why he's right, and no one's telling me why he's wrong. He's at war, destroying outposts and trying to take over. That's what happens in war. Why should I feel bad for Helium? Like,
yeah, exactly. And they, you know, they don't really. The only reason for us to not like him is that he's being, you know, the puppets behind the scenes are these people that we, I guess, supposed to really dislike.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, if anything, Sab is being used.
Yes.
Almost worse than anyone in Helium is. Like, they chose him. Okay, why did they choose him? Because he's a warrior? Because he was losing, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was losing. He was about to lose and about to die, and then they saved him.
He was about to lose. He was about to die, but they're like, we'll give the underdog a try. Let's do that. Like, because we're mystical and immortal to just fuck off and destroy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you choose someone from Helium? They were winning the freaking war.
Yeah, wouldn't that be faster? Like,
they're not fighting over any resources. Like, the seas are drying up. There's very little water. Like, what are you fighting about?
Yeah, it's just you're supposed to just sort of accept it and just, be along for the adventure. But it like I said, the story leaves you with a lot of unanswered questions that are frustrating. It's just frustrating for us as an audience. We're like, why do I care? Why do I care?
Yeah, I mean, at least in Star Wars, I knew they were basically fighting space Nazis. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck Nazis. Everybody can agree. Everyone should agree on that.
Exactly, yeah. And with the prequels, it's like you there is an impending doom coming.
Exactly.
Right? And it's a tragedy. You're like, oh, I really hope that this doesn't go bad, but I'm seeing it go bad, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I watched the prequels again recently, and I feel like George Lucas was really kind of trying to, I don't know if he did it well. He probably didn't. But he was really like trying to create a political kind of story about how democracies disintegrate, basically. I mean, that's really what the prequels are about. And he just sends all these red flags. Like, look, Anakin is the type of person where a lot of red flags come up, right? Like,
yeah.
In the second movie, he's basically like, yeah, I think fascism's cool. Like, because I'd be in charge. I would just kill everybody. He says that openly.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'd be okay with it, like.
He says that in the second movie, and then we're just like, oh, no. Right?
Like, no, honey, no, it's bad.
But, and again, the reason why he would say that, and this is, I don't know if he totally hit it through, but Anakin is from a planet. He was a slave. He was a slave. He's from a planet run by gangster, like Hutts. So why would a guy like that understand democracy? They didn't bring democracy to him. They left him out there to die, basically. And then
go ahead. Sorry.
And then he comes back later, and his mom gets killed by these people, and then he's done. He's like, fuck it, I'm done with all of this. Mm-hmm. The only way that I can get justice is if I bring it myself.
Yeah, and on top of the fact, he's taken to a world like to be, what's the planet that they're on? Like the city planet where
yeah, it starts with a C, Coruscant.
Coruscant, yeah. He's taken there and shown like a different world and stuff like that. He's probably thinking, even as a kid, why isn't where I came from like this? Why isn't everyone like this? Why is there Why was I born a slave? And then he's taken in by this super secret society of Jedi who shield him from it. So this kid had no chance to ever learn anything about the real world because he's taken into this mysticism and this, I don't want to say a cult or anything like that, but he's taken in and indoctrinated to learn something completely different. Oh, we bring balance to the universe. Okay, why is my mom a fucking slave?
Yeah. Bro, what about her? What's the balance for her?
Not even just my mom. What about all the other mothers? What about all the other kids who are forced to compete in pod racing for the benefit of a hut? Like, why aren't you there bringing balance? Because there is no balance on Tatooine. You're born slave, you die slave. And I just wish the movies had reflected those ideals more. Like, I wish they had been better because when I talk about them sometimes, there are some really good elements to it. But I wish they had gotten the Empire Strikes Back treatment. I really wish they could have. And it's like they were, again, trying to deal with with political issues and the fall of democracy, because Padme has a really good line in, I don't know, was it the second one or the third one, where she's like, this is how democracy dies, with thunder and applause.
Yeah, this is the third one. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that speech that Palpatine gives, oh, this is what they did to me and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's cheering him on. Wow, this kind of sounds like Hitler. Kind of reminds me of some Hitler speeches that we've all seen in history class.
And the thing too about Anakin is like, he goes in, so first off, he's brought in and they treat him like the Jedi Order treats him like trash from the jump as a kid, right?
Like, kid from the wrong side of the tracks, white trash.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
How his like group training went with all the other chosen ones and shit like that. I bet he was treated like crap.
Yeah. He's treated terribly, and they always basically diss him, right? Even though he's really good at what he does, and he wants to do good. and they're like, no, you're too old to be a Jedi. And then he gets over that. Then like, you're not really good enough to be, like on the council. It's a political appointment, and so we're not going to grant you the rank of master. So you're below us, is basically what they're saying, right?
You know what? It just irritates the crap out of me is, shouldn't you be on this kid's side? This is a 10-year-old who is able to read back every card, like freaking Mace Windu's little like card trick or some shit. Oh, what do you see on this one? And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He was able to read every one of those back to you perfectly without any training whatsoever. And you diss this kid? They're morons.
Yeah.
You know what? I think just before we get too sidetracked, which we already kind of have, we should watch the prequels. I mean it. We should watch these freaking prequels because now I'm kind of like,
you kind of want to watch it, yeah.
Now I kind of want to watch them.
I'm down. I like I said, I watched them, especially in the second one. I really got what he was trying to do politically with the films, and I think that's what he wants the takeaway to be is like, this is how a democracy crumbles. That is the thematic takeaway he wants people to have. Plus, the stuff with Anakin being. Again, it's like just a tortured person thrown into this thing. Is like, is the Jedi Order really good? Are they really good?
Yeah, and it kind
the way they treated him.
Yeah, and it just, how could he never had a chance. Like he also was never like given. Like we never see him interact with really other kids. At least on Tatooine, he was praised for being smart.
Yes.
At least he made a freaking robot. Gifted. He made C-3PO. He made a sentient being that feels pain, has fear. And they just treat him like shit. At least, I mean, I hate Qui-Gon Jinn. I think Qui-Gon Jinn is a freaking idiot. But at least he was someone who was like, you realize this kid is like brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the one. This is the one. Like it.
That's another thing too. Qui-Gon wasn't able to like be his teacher. That maybe pushed him in another direction too. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
All this stuff, all these possibilities. Yeah. So that was a fun discussion. But like I think that was really important because like the prequels weren't even good, right? And like the prequels, like at least there's all this stuff that is in the plot that we can kind of grab onto, characters that we care about. In John Carter, I don't know if there's anything really there. Like, there's not like a villain that we really like to hate.
I don't really care about the Therns. Sab Fan is just
he's a puppet.
Yeah, he's just a puppet. And then the helium guys are just like, oh, we love science and we love math. Okay, that's cool. Like,
yeah.
What else?
Why should I root for them, right? Why should I root for them?
Well, we should root for her because she's smart.
Yeah.
That's why I felt like I was supposed to root for Dara or whatever her name is, Deja.
Yeah.
Because she's smart and can wield a sword. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely makes her. And they do some stuff in a little bit that kind of makes us like her more. Yeah. So going forward in the plot, so John is taken in. Then we get this interesting scene where like the baby Tharks hatch, and the Tharks, they have this interesting ritual where pretty much they have, I guess, what you would call a meritocratic version of raising their children. They make the mothers fight for a child.
Yeah, that was pretty messed up.
That's pretty messed up.
Really sad because, like, what I like about the Tharks is that it is a very harsh culture, but there are some beautiful elements to it, and John has to learn to not only integrate into this culture, but to also, dude, you got to see it from their perspective. This is how they've been doing it forever. And you may not like it, but that's what makes, again, that's what goes back to like when the Enterprise would encounter species, they're like, oh, this is barbaric. We would never do this on Earth or blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but this is how they've been doing it.
Yeah.
And who are we to say that's wrong? And they shoot their young. That was dark. The ones that they didn't take out of that little hatchling cave, they shoot them. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That's the thing too. This film kind of goes there a couple times. It really kind of goes there.
And I really appreciated the culture that we were shown of the Tharks, because I really feel like Disney movies they allude to things, for the sake of like their audience, which is generally kids. But they don't really go there. I mean, maybe in the 80s and 90s they would go there. But not really with like more recent stuff. Like we always know that a parent has died or something like that. But they straight up shot babies. Like,
yeah.
Think about that for a minute, guys. Disney just shot babies.
Yeah, that is. I guess the only thing is, like, since they're green babies, maybe they expect us not to care as much. But
they were pretty cute. I thought they were little fat Michelin babies. You know, you know, like they were little chubby. Which I thought was funny because as like adults are like these really like lean, you know, like sinewy,
they're super
like,
yeah,
like creatures. They reminded me of one other. They actually reminded me of the aliens on that planet in the second prequel, Star Wars prequel. Oh, what was that called?
Oh, Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. You know when Obi-Wan goes to that like water planet?
Yeah. The really slender, like super slender.
Yeah, that's what the Tharks actually reminded me of. I was like, I've seen this before, but I like their tusks and everything like that. And when they're like the males are like bumping each other.
Yeah. They'll go like face to face.
Face to face, and they'll like tusks will smash and shit. But yeah, I the Tharks again were probably my favorite part of the movie.
And then we meet this Thark Sola. Now, this is I really like Sola, this character. I thought that they did a really good job of like making us empathize with her.
Yes. The only character that we might empathize with. Sola should rule everyone. She has empathy. She has heart. She respects her culture, even if it means her culture will kill her. Yeah,
it's true. And you can tell she's just got the short end of the stick, and probably not really for her own. It's not like it's her fault or whatever. And in the scenario, she gets stuck with John. She's like fighting for a real, like a Thark baby, and then she loses, and then she's got John.
Yeah, they call him like the white worm baby or something.
Yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah.
And then he's like initiated into their culture, and they like basically put a diaper on him is the equivalent of what they're doing to him. They powder him up and they put a loincloth on him.
Yeah, and then she at one point in like the Thark nursery, wherever it is, which again was kind of confusing because they're fighting over taking a baby, but then they're all just thrown into one nursery together. And Sola's the only one taking care of them.
I suspect that is, so it's like, that is your child. When you win the fight, that is your child, right? Whatever that means in their culture. like, you know, in the equivalent of ours would be like, you know, you fight over the kid and then you got to pay the student loans.
Yeah,
that's how this works. And this, you know, again, there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, so he gets powdered up and all that other stuff.
Yeah. And then he makes a friend. And so this is another character that I really liked. It's this dog thing. Woola, yeah. This dog thing's really cool.
Yes, I loved him. He was like, he can zip around really fast. Yeah. He's like this big brute. He kind of reminded me of like one of those like really thick pit bulls. You know what I mean? That like like the toes in or whatever. Like the Looney Tune pit bull that we would always see. And yeah, I really like Woola. He was so cute.
Yeah, he's super cute. And
he wants to play with John.
Yeah, like that, you know, and it just immediately you like that. You like the dog because like it's like a dog, and it looks him like a dog, and it's like
he even calls the dog like bad dog. It's like that's not really what he is, but he ain't a dog. But he's got like 6 legs and like this thick like weird tail, but he's got that smushed in like face.
Yeah, smushed in face, but like a large head.
Just like very. I feel like they had a lot of fun with Willa's character. That was the most Pixar character, I feel like, in the movie.
Yes, it was definitely the most Pixar character. And then, you know, later they feed John this drink that allows him to understand their language, so then he's able to speak with them finally. And then we get to see, so Deja ran away from the wedding, and which is like hella cool. Yeah. Give her props for that. So she ran away from the rain. She's like, I'm not marrying this dude. And then we get another really cool aerial battle with these like solar planes or whatever. And then, like Tara Starkis is like saying, "Oh yeah, they're fighting. We're gonna let them fight. We don't care who wins." Ha ha ha! And then
They're
we'll come
taking
out on
bets,
top.
I think. Yeah, they're like taking
They are.
bets on who's gonna win.
Mhm. They are. And but then John decides to intervene. So he does his kind of Superman thing. Saves Deja, and he's like, "Oh yeah, stand behind me. I'll take care of it. I'll fight them for you." He's like fighting these people, and then he loses the sword, and then she like kills 3 people, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I should stand behind you."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you like these action scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I like the action scenes. I like a lot of movies that have like cool sword fights in them because it's just it's something that I would love to do, but I don't know if there's any sword masters that live near me that could teach me and stuff like that, because I don't think I'd want to do fencing. I would want to do I want to do like the Witcher shit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That kind of sword play.
A broadsword.
Yes. Oh, I love the broadsword. And, like also just loving Star Trek, the batleth is one of my favorite space weapons. And again, I don't think there's anybody around here who can teach me how to use a batleth. But yeah, I liked the action sequences. They were pretty good, pretty entertaining, lots of blue blood flying around and shit. And I actually really like the actor, Taylor.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do really like him. I didn't see him in a lot of stuff that he always has like this brooding look on his face. Like, I'm just so miserable. I'm the most depressed person around. But what sold me was the second season of True Detective is not that great. However, Taylor Kitsch's character in it is wonderful. I love him in it, and he was so good. He was so committed to playing this character, and he was probably the best part about season 2 of True Detective. And that's what really was like, okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on this guy because he's gonna be a really good actor. He can play a very good, just sad, melancholy, but kind of a badass at the same time character. And that's what he was in, John Carter too.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of his type. It feels like what he played. Wasn't he also in the Friday Night Lights TV show?
I'm not sure. I never watched it. He might have been, but I never did get into that show. I know a lot of my girlfriends have liked it. Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot of red meat in that show. Let's put it that way. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, the cast is super hot. I've heard that a lot from people.
I think it was definitely one of those like teen shows, kind of like how like Smallville had a lot of cute guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never really did get into the Tom Wellington thing. I was always a Lex Luthor girl. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
Man, you suck.
Well, he's a cooler character. Like you're a logical person.
He's just got a little bit more depth to him. Like,
yeah.
At least he tried to be good at one point. It was kind of like, I'm just bad at being good.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor was. I'm just like, I'm just bad at being good, and I'm great at being bad. So we're just gonna go all in with this.
Yeah, we're going all in. Yeah. So now Deja, and so immediately, right now we've got this love story going on. It's Deja and John. And so Deja, like, she starts explaining to him basically that he's on Mars, and now he's like, oh, I got to get back home. And, again, now it comes with his character, like, he's reluctant. He wants to go back. He wants to go back home, get his gold, do his thing. And, as we kind of see later on, something tragic happened to his family. He had, like, a wife and daughter, I think? Something like that.
Wife and a little kid, and didn't end well.
They got attacked or something like that. They got killed. He had to bury him. And so he probably again has the typical kind of brooding Bruce Wayne kind of like, I can't get too close to people because when I did before, there was tragedy struck and I can't have my heart broken again. Did you feel like their chemistry was good, the two of them, or?
It was okay, for the movie that it was. I wasn't expecting like, and it's kind of like, hey, I've known you a day, and I'm like madly in love with you. never felt this way before. I'm like, oh, your dead wife and kid might be pretty pissed about that, but like, okay. I found it a little unbelievable that they're saying I love you. Because again, it's only been like a day, a couple of days, maybe.
Yeah.
Time is very weird on Mars, though I don't know.
Time is weird.
But it was just okay. I was kind of expecting it, but you know, she's just kind of like teaches them, oh, you can learn to love again, and you can have a future here. Maybe this is your destiny. It's where you were always meant to be. But yeah, it was just okay.
Yeah, I felt about the same way. There were some moments that I think worked. I don't know, the casting. I kind of wish that they had someone else's Deja a little bit, someone a little bit more well known, maybe.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Like that kind of goes back to his like I want to cast unknowns and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know who else they would have cast to be this character. Yeah. But yeah, she was just I've never seen her in anything else. Doesn't mean she hasn't been in anything else. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like they had that type of chemistry, you know? Yeah. And that's you gotta have that if you're gonna sell the love story on me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then John and Deja, they go to this place. It's like on a lake, and then there's this massive, it's almost like a tree or something. And inside there's this, they use this medallion to unlock this map of the solar system. And again, Deja's like, oh, this is powered by the blue light. You know, again, this is how all these things work. And, you know, this was her theory, and it's just proving her theory again.
Yeah, it's like the ninth ray or something like that.
Yep, that's exactly right. And here we get explained how this teleportation system works. So he's basically a copy on Mars, but his body on Earth is just there like in a coma. Mm-hmm. Which is really interesting that they did that. They're connected, right? But when he uses that technology on Mars, he's there and he's, you know, sentient, but his Earth body is just laying on the ground in the
hanging
dirt.
Out in a cave.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of creates another wrinkle in this whole thing about, you know, how you can be in these places at once, because, you know, basically, like if he died on Earth, he would die on Mars, right?
Yeah, which I was like, okay, so your body's just hanging out in a cave in Arizona. There's no predators who take shelter in that cave who are just like, ooh, meat. Like, I found that a little just. So his body on Earth doesn't age, or does it? Is it just preserved in like this weird time space in between land? I think it would have just been fine if they said, oh yeah, I got transported to Mars, because he did. We see him get transported to Mars. We don't see his body just fall down and then he's on Mars. Like, he literally lands. Like, so I didn't really like the whole copy thing. Yeah, it was just a little blah to me.
Yeah, because it's like, why do they really need to do that, right? Just teleport him there.
Yeah, like I feel like you could have just teleported him and it would have been fine, instead of it just being this, oh, I'm a copy of myself. If you had just backspaced on that line, it wouldn't have bothered me, because I up until that point, I had just been believing, oh yeah, you got teleported to Mars. Cool. That's fine.
Yeah. Again, this film makes a lot of choices, and it's like,
why?
Why? And that's not really working for me, you know. So then we get the scene where, again, another Thurn, the Mark Strong character, is like, you know, he's the puppet master. He's puppet mastering some of these other alien creatures to, you know, attack John and attack Deja. And John makes this sort of choice. He's like, hey, I'm gonna make sure you guys live. I'm gonna fight these people off. And we get this like legitimately brutal scene.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
It is legitimately brutal. John fights an entire army by himself, and he just massacres like 4 dozen people.
Yeah, and I like
these
that,
aliens.
Like Woola stays by his side and is like zipping around and like helping him out and shit like that. And I liked that part of it. But he's really just by himself, because it's him and his dog creature thing. But eventually he's going to get overwhelmed by this horde. And I did like that it showed a different sect of the Tharks, that they're not all just one peaceful clan, that there are others that they like battle against and stuff. But what do they really get out of being manipulated by the Thurn? Like, what is the Thurn giving them?
I think it promised that.
Yeah,
it promised someone, I think, to be whatever the Jeddak. I think that's what the deal was.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't remember. I don't remember if he was. All I remember was like, go get them. The girl needs to die, or the girl needs to live. Do whatever you want with the other one. Like, I think he even says like, with the Earthman, see what he can do. It's like, see what he can do. Why don't you just have him killed? Like, he's your nemesis in this. Like, see what he can do. You're bad at your job, Mark Strong.
They are so bad.
Fine, he's a fine actor, but I'm just like, Mark, can you stop doing these movies?
Yeah. The more and more like the Puppet Master aliens, I just hate them. I just think that they just bring this movie down.
They really do. They're so bad. I don't know what their end goal is, except to like drain a planet of it's fucking Mars. It is a desert planet. It is Arrakis. There's no spice. It is Arrakis without the spice and the worms. I don't know what you're after with Mars. Like, you're telling me there's not some other like Ryza planet or some shit with like a whole bunch of resources that like
right?
God, it's just like you picked a really weird planet. Like, is it just a lottery? Did they just like in freaking all right, this century it'll be Mars.
It's like they had a drawing and they got Mars.
We did Mercury last century, so last millennia, and I guess Mars' turn. Why don't they choose Earth? Earth has all of the resources: water, fire, earth, air. It has all the airbending shit. And they chose Mars.
They chose Mars.
Fuck you, Mark Strong.
I really hate the characters, and they just seem to, they're always there. They're always doing something. They're always, plotting in a way that like, doesn't it always make sense?
They're bad plotters.
They're bad.
A good element to this is like, if there had been some kind of line where Mark Strong was like, oh yeah, and Earth is next, that would have made John way more likely to fight against these guys. It would have given him something to fight for if he was just like, yeah, we're draining Mars of its resources, and guess what? Your planet's next.
Yeah.
I was waiting for some kind of line for them to be like, oh yeah, we've been manipulating, like, we caused the Civil War, or we've been manipulating your presidents and your world leaders.
That would have been good.
I was waiting for something like that from the Therns. And it just never came. It
never came.
It's like their scope is super wide, but they just crossed out everything in it. Like, it's like you can manipulate time and space and reality, and you're just fucking off, dude.
But yeah, you would think that they would just be over it. They would just go teleport to another planet, somewhere else, just create a bunch of machines with their infinite energy, and then just like chill. It's like, I don't know. Anyway, I don't like it. Yeah. So John is still alive. Him and Deja, they decide, okay, they're gonna go back to Helion, her home city. They go there, and then finally she agrees to marry Septhan, and then her and John have this kind of conversation about, it's like this kind of like, do you still love me kind of stuff, basically.
I've known you for 24 hours. Don't you still love me? It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, what is happening?
It's a love story. Like,
yes. And then she says, like, oh, a warrior can change his mental, but he can't change his heart.
It's like, gag me with a freaking stick, Deja. Like, Deja, Dara, fuck your mother, Dara. I don't know who the hell you are. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. It was like, the Princess Jasmine thing was a little too much for me. I was just like, I've seen this before, and please stop. Like, it's like so overused. This whole, it's like, I feel like Princess Jasmine's like tropes are like good sometimes, but then this was just fluff. It was just puh. It was just like, bleh. Like, shut up. I didn't like her. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So then she gives him the incantation to get back to Earth. And then there's like this moment like, oh, is he going to go back or is he not? And then he decides finally, he's like, no, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to help her. Blah, blah, blah. So then, he's like, snooping around the palace and, hey, guess what? Mark Strong, is there waiting for him. He's a shape-shifting. And this time he was like a counselor for Deja as a shapeshifter, and then he takes out yeah, exactly. But not as interesting as the Shadow, right?
No, not nearly as that's the problem. When the Shadow has more depth of character than freaking Mark Strong in a $200 million movie. It's
I know.
Something's wrong with
something's wrong.
I'm Snidely with Lash, and I'm going to reveal my plan, which is super boring. It's a super boring plan.
Yeah. Oh. And that's the next scene is just all expositionary, oh yes, we've been plotting to take over Barsoom, and we've been here in the shadows for so long. It's what we do. We go planet to planet, we take over all their resources, and then we pit people against each other and blah blah blah, this and that.
They just get off on chaos, I guess. You do you, bro.
Yeah.
But there was this, I was waiting for him to be walking him around Helium or something, and be look at all the poverty. They let their people suffer. Kind of oh, they're just the peasants, in the French Revolution or something. They need nothing. They live in these palaces and stuff, but there's no poverty. I don't see anyone wanting for anything. I see people going about their day, working, to whatever it is they do. Again, at least in Alita, we see people actually going about their day, their job. There's infrastructure. There's agriculture. There is mega structure. There's so much world building in Alita, in almost a relatively similar time frame as far as the runtime of the films, than there is in John Carter. There's no poverty. There's no evil aristocratic society that I have to worry about. So I don't know what this is. He's just walking him around the city being a shape-shifting into different people.
Yeah. Exactly. He turns into a woman. He turns into a soldier. He does all this shit.
Is this just a scene to reveal his epic power? Because I kind of already realized he was epic because they can go to other planets.
Yeah.
In the blink of an eye.
And they give, the puppet villain this really powerful weapon that exerts infinite energy. So I already know these guys, they're the real deal.
You're the top of the food chain. Okay.
Yeah.
You're bad at being at the top of the food chain.
Yeah. And in the scene we do get to see they watch Deja, and she's doing the royal wedding kind of thing. There's a procession, and she's waving, and everyone in the city. It doesn't look like there's any poverty, like you said. It doesn't look like there's any struggle. It just looks like people are happy.
Yeah, everyone seems totally fine.
So what's the deal? What's the conflict here?
Yeah, there is no conflict except the one that you're telling me that they have, but I don't know what that is. You're telling me there's this conflict, but everyone seems pretty happy with they seem to love Deja. They're happy she's getting married. They're happy that this guy who's been destroying their outposts or whatever, is marrying her, and it's heralding the dawn of a new age and shit. But there's never a line from Sab Dan who's just I'm doing this to liberate people. I'm doing this to liberate X. He's not. I don't know what he's doing anything for.
Yeah, he's just a puppet, and beyond that, he's nothing.
Exactly.
Right?
He's just there. Everyone is just there because they have to be, which is basically how I feel about the actors. I signed a contract, so I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
then, the best part of the scene, so the dog shows up and bites Mark Strong, just rips his hand, and takes the medallion out of his hand, and then he's shocked, what? I've been defeated by a dog.
Oh my god! I was monologuing. It's in the Incredibles, where he's you tried to get me monologuing again.
Yeah.
And and you got bit by a dog, bro. So you suck.
You got bit by a dog, bro. And then John's able to get away, and then he basically he's like, okay, I gotta now that he knows what they're up to, he's gotta fight the Therns. So then he decides, okay, I'm gonna go back, and the Tarks, right?
Yeah, the Tarks.
The Tharks, yeah. So he's going to go back to the Tharks. He's going to get them to join him and then fight with Helion to defeat the puppet. That's the plan.
Who's not even the real threat. The puppet isn't even in the real threat, guys.
I know.
Okay, like, we know who the real threat is. And if they have all this infinite energy that they gave to their puppet, they can just wipe out the whole army. They can just snap their fingers and be like,
I know. It's like...
But no.
Right, he's like Thanos with the Power Stone. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's like if Thanos got the Power Stone and was just like, what is this thing?
This movie's got a lot of problems, right?
That's so
Jesus.
many issues. I'm just over the dumbass villains who have no what motivates them to destroy these planets or to feed off of chaos.
You would think at some point, what's his name? The puppet guy would be like, dude, what's it like? I'm getting screwed. I'm getting screwed over here.
Yeah, what's in it for him? Right? Ultimate power or some shit. Okay, well and that's okay. So their ultimate plot, and I don't understand why this even has to happen, is that it's like a Princess Bride thing. We're like, oh, we're going to kill her on her wedding night and shit.
Yes.
Why?
So that their puppet can rule the world, basically. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
but why, right? Why do that when he could just kill everybody?
Oh, well, I guess maybe actually, let me backtrack a little bit. Maybe, so I think they want to kill her because she's discovered the ninth ray. So I think that's why they need to kill her. But, and obviously this is assuming, if you can travel to other worlds, why not just, you can't erase her memory of knowing about the ninth ray? You have all this infinite power, but memory erasure isn't one of them. Or I don't know, I don't know why. I just don't know why. Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff that just doesn't work with the villains, especially in this movie.
It's like, why not have them have an heir that is going to be your ultimate puppet, and he'll be they'll be indoctrinated to be your evil thing. I just
So all right, so John, he's trying to get the Tharks to join his side. He goes there. Hey, guess what? Tarkus has been overthrown. He's no longer the Jeddak. The other guy is, I forget his name. Again, another character. We saw them have conflict early on.
Yeah, Tars helped John and Sola escape, especially after it was kind of revealed that Sola is actually his daughter, and that's why he's been kind of giving her all these free passes, which aren't a lot because he brands her, and she's been branded multiple times, and he has this line where there's no more room on your body for brands, so you need to really be careful. Yeah, and that's why John really empathizes with her. I think a lot because I don't know. I feel like he sees a lot of himself maybe in Sola, someone who is she's kind of a slave for them. You know what I mean? She's at the bottom of the totem pole as far as her people go, and I think he feels a little bad for her because he can see the potential in her. She's not weak. If she was weak, she would have died a long time ago.
Yeah. He also he has that relationship with Tarkus, and then he knew immediately, oh, that's his daughter because of the way that he treated her. Yeah, exactly. It's the father. Which I kind of like because sometimes you don't really see that in movies. It's usually oh, I can tell you're a mother or we're a mother because I was a mother or something like that. It's usually a maternal part of a story that you see instead of it sometimes being this father kind of a thing. Because clearly there's not a lot of parenting within this culture. This culture, yeah.
They grab a baby but then throw it into a nursery and then it's raised by someone who doesn't get her own baby, and then the fathers or the mothers really have no. It's almost it takes a village to raise a baby. I got that kind of mentality from it.
Yes.
but yeah, like, but for some, I think maybe Tars had some kind of line like she's like the only thing that reminds him of her mother or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some kind of and again, that's probably my favorite, like Sola and Tarkus. That's like my favorite part of this movie for sure. And the dog.
They were very compelling, and the dog. Yeah, they were the most compelling. I loved their scenes. But yeah, so Tars has been overthrown, and he's gotten the crap kicked out of him, and he's kind of fighting for his right to live. When they get,
and we get an arena battle.
Yes, and we get. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, she's literally on her way to get married, and this is probably taking hours.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting her to already be married by the time they got back. Okay, wait. First of all, I have to steal the ship, crash it.
Yeah.
I did love it when they're like, the Tharks don't fly. Like,
yeah.
Get arrested or get caught. Have your talk with Tars. Have your fight with Tars. Get thrown into the arena. Like,
all this stuff.
Oh yeah, it's taking place in 5 minutes. That's totally believable.
Yeah. And also, like, they go to the wrong place.
Yep.
Right?
I think so.
So they go to the wrong place, and they're like, "Oh, no one's there. We got to go to the other place." So they got to go to the other city, and it's just, So yeah, in this arena battle, this is very kind of classic sword and sandal kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. John has to fight two white apes with these, like, it's like 6-armed, right? It's like a 6.
Yeah, I think it's got like 6 limbs and no eyes, or they're really like beady, but they got like these. They can hear and they smell and stuff like that. Because they had kind of mentioned the white apes before earlier in the movie, but I honestly wasn't expecting an actual ape. Pardon me. But yeah, those are big gorillas.
Yeah. So he fights these big gorillas, and of course, look, he's like he's like Superman on this planet, and he's able to beat them both. And then he claims the right of challenge, and then it's like, who will bind with my sword? And everyone's like, yeah. And then the other guy like jumps at him, and John just cuts his head off.
Just clean off. It's like, yeah, that was pretty good. I didn't like that guy. We were not supposed to like him. I love that moment for Sola when there's always been that other female Thark who's been like kind of goading her the whole time and treating her like trash, and she just like, you know what? I've had enough of you, and grabs her, and it just throws them both into the arena. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, that was great. Girl, that is cold, but I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
She finally was like, you know what? I've had enough of you, and I'm going to just kill you.
Yeah. And it's good to see her finally, have her moment after she's just been beat down on, like, basically the whole film.
Yeah, beat down on. Yeah, it was good.
Remember there was that scene when Deja and John, they go into the temple, and she's like, "Don't go in the temple. Don't do it.
Can you
don't
please
do
not
it."
My people's temple. Like, I'm trying to help you, and they just totally ignore her. And then they get caught. She's like, "Yeah, I told you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna die now because
and it's your fault. And there's nothing I could do, and I'm frustrated because in my life, that's all that happens to me."
I just get the crap kicked out of me and treated like trash. And thank you for being the cause of my ultimate downfall, because I told you so. And like John is like the line where he's just like, "Oh no, it wasn't her fault. She tried stopping us." And they're like, "We don't care." Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're literally on another planet, dude, dealing with a culture that you're really insensitive towards, quite frankly. And dude, she even gives him her pet. Like, Woola is obviously protective of Sola as well, and will do what she commands. And she's like, "No, he'll follow you no matter where you go. He'll protect you just because of your association to me."
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it was nice that she got her dues and was able to
totally.
I just still love that moment. She's like, "I've had enough of you, and I'm going to kill you, and I'm not, and you're just a bully, and I'm done with you, bitch."
Yeah. That scene's really pretty good. So then John goes, now he's got his plan. He's got his army. He's going to go and try and break up this wedding. So they go to Helium. Now, Helium, there's no one there. And they're like, "Oh, shit, like, what's going on?" And so he figures out, so Zidanga is going to betray helium at this wedding. And so it's like basically like a red wedding kind of scenario.
Yeah.
They have the marriage and then they kill everybody. So then, John flies there. He breaks up the wedding. There's a big fight, and then the Tharks show up, and then there's a big battle ensues, pretty much. So yeah, this scene a lot happened.
There was too much happening. There was way too much happening. Like, at least, okay, so at least in the battle in like the two towers, when they're, oh God, what's the name of this?
Helms Deep.
Helms Deep, thank you. The Battle of Helms Deep is one of the best battle scenes ever because they even have their downtime moments where characters can still communicate and give orders and stuff like that. This was just too much happening at one time. It was just like, then the shapeshifter became Deja, and then she became John, and then became that, and it was just, can you just pick something? Can you just pick something? Like, it was just too much. And yeah, I didn't like it. I just didn't like this final showdown or whatever. And then they just killed the puppet. So
they kill the puppet. They just kill him he's a puppet,
Like, if you let me live, I'll reveal to you what they really are. We know what they are. What more are you going to reveal? Why would they have told you anything else? Like, when you were just being used? I don't know what more Sab could have told John that John didn't already know.
Like, Sab is on a need-to-know basis. Like, this guy is like the lowest level.
Yeah, like, you're middle management, dude. Like, nobody's going to tell you anything. And I've been lower management, and I didn't know I knew even less than anything. And it's like, I just don't know what he could have told him that John wouldn't have already just either figured out for himself, or what he just wasn't told by the Thurn himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he gave up the whole plan. He gave up the goose.
Yeah, I like how
told him everything about them.
Sab's just totally willing to sing like a canary.
Yeah. He's like, hey man, they got these operations in Florida, man. I'll tell you exactly. They got the race horses. I'll tell you everything.
Can you give me witness protection?
It's like, we already know about the race horses. You're useless.
Yeah, you're useless. Yeah, it's like, no, you're done.
Yeah, and then I actually like this moment. So then, unfortunately, Mark Strong, Matthijs Shang is the name of this thing, gets away. But then John proposes to Deja, and she says yes. So I actually did kind of like that. I thought it was a sweet moment.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Personally, I would say I don't buy it. You've known each other 48 hours. Like, I almost couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, amongst the bodies and the gore and the blood, let's just get married. Oh, where did you get married? Oh, out on battlefield.
Yeah. So there are these shape-shifting aliens, and then one copied me, and then it copied her, and then we almost killed it, then it got away. Oh, and then there was the puppet. I killed him. And then I had to get married after that point. I had to marry her because I love her.
Also, I kept waiting for it to not be Deja, because they already proved that it can shapeshift into her. How did John know that was the real one? You're just gonna. I'm gonna trust your feelings, Anakin. It's like, that's
the other problem with the shape-shifting stuff. Like, you gotta be very concise with it. Otherwise, we don't know. Like think of how they did in The Thing, right? There was always a build-up and then a payoff, and then once the payoff hit, we're like, oh, that's it. And and then, but they were trying to defeat the Thing. And then the audience knew, okay, that's the Thing now. Now the suspense is over. That's the Thing, and people are in danger. This was just dude, they could have popped out of the freaking bowl of cereal. They always just showed up out of nowhere.
Yeah, and is it just people the Therns can imitate, or is it objects as well? Is it, like a T-1000 type thing? Again, that is where switcheroo worked in the end of T2, when it's you think it's actually Sarah Connor, but it's really not, because Sarah Connor would never put her son in danger, and that's how you know it's not really her.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah, this I was just like, how can you trust that that's actually Deja? You don't know if that's her or not. And the chaos that was surrounding them at any moment they could have just killed her and then taken over.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Okay, so then they're married, they're happy, and then Matai Shang tricks John again and then sends him back to Earth.
Yeah, after
and
John,
takes the
like
medallion.
immediately after John throws away his medallion, that's when the Thurn. It's like the Thurn was waiting for him to just be
I was just waiting.
Accept living here and then throw away the medallion. Yeah, and then zaps him back to Earth.
Zaps him back. And so then he wakes up in the cave. You know, he'd been in a little mini coma or whatever. He's in a bunch of dirt. And then basically that ends the story that the Edgar Rice Burroughs character was reading. And he says, I kept searching for 10 years and I was trying to find the Thurns on Earth. And I found them and then I did this thing or whatever. The whole thing was an elaborate trap by John to kill another Thurn. Okay, so here's another problem. Here's another, to me, major problem with this story.
Give it to me.
So who did John kill when he killed that Thurn? Which Thurn was it?
I don't even think we had seen him yet. We're just supposed to believe it's a Thurn. What if it's like a freaking Undertaker or some shit, dude? How do you know? Like, was he always aware he was being watched? And so he mentions in this, like, in his diary or whatever, that his nephew is reading, or his godson, or his, whatever his familial.
Yeah, whatever their relation is.
We found it off the Orkney Islands or something like that. And that there are these portals all over the world, but you need a medallion in order to go through the portal. Okay, that's fine. I think that's kind of neat. Wouldn't the Thurn have known that John was full of crap? Like, I feel like they would have
seen him at the portals, yeah.
And what did that guy dig up that made them all so excited? Because clearly they have to know what they're looking for. There has to be some kind of sketches or drawings or whatever that John would have distributed to his workers to know what they were looking for. So he just dug up what did he dig up? What was it that tricked the Thurn into thinking? And why didn't he just kill John then? Like, if you're traveling in the 1800s from the Orkney Islands back to the United States, there are weeks.
Kill him on the boat.
There are weeks, if not months, of opportunity to kill him. Like, they didn't have planes. They had trains, obviously, at that point. But the Orkney Islands are in the middle of the ocean.
Yes.
Maybe not the middle of the ocean, but off the coast or whatever. But, like, still, like, and that's a dangerous journey. Like, there were so many opportunities to kill him. Like, he had to fake this elaborate death and trick his poor nephew or whatever.
Yeah.
My favorite part of it, though, is by the time you're finished reading this, it might be too late. Then why did you have him?
Yeah, I don't like. This is the other problem too. I don't like this narrative setup with this whole thing being a trap. That didn't work for me either.
No, but, like, especially if you knew he was being watched by a Thurn, why don't you just shoot him then? Like,
yeah.
They're not impervious to bullets, apparently. Like, they're impervious to everything else except a bullet. Like, yeah.
So here's my problem. So I was just reading stuff about the plot, just to, like, try and understand what was going on. So I read somewhere that the Thurn that he kills in the scene was supposed to be Shane.
It was?
Yeah. At least that's what the plot synopsises have told me.
Then why didn't it look like him?
That is exactly it. Now, I think that makes sense as a story, like, but we don't get. It's not Mark Strong. Like, if he shot Mark Strong, okay, we're like, yeah, he got revenge on that motherfucker, and we're happy. But it wasn't Mark Strong. It was some random dude. It was just some random dude.
I feel like after he shot him, he somehow transformed back into Mark Strong. Then we would have been like, oh, he was watching him. Yada, yada, yada. But it wasn't. It was just some random guy in a bowler hat. Like,
yeah, exactly. And it just, we get no satisfaction out of that. That's the other problem too, is like, not the villain is bad. They have all these puppets. We never feel like, okay, I'm satisfied that this character got defeated. This villain got defeated. We never get that. it's just hollow. It's totally hollow.
Yeah, and another thing too, John has been gone for a long time, and we don't know how time is, if time on Mars is parallel to the time on Earth. I'm assuming it's not. And he just goes back with this like optimistic look on his face, as if Mars still isn't being run by Therns. He doesn't know what he's going to find when he goes back. Maybe Deja's dead. Maybe the Tharks are all gone. Maybe they killed each other in their little blood feuds or whatever.
Yeah.
He has no idea what he is going back. He's going back when enough time has passed to where he has an adult nephew. An adult.
Yeah, exactly.
And he thinks everything's just going to be, he goes back with this optimistic, everything's going to be great. Like,
I know, yeah, he's beaming. He's like, yay!
Like, no, dude, there's probably going to be some issues when you go back, because now the Therns have gotten rid of you and they've had all this time to create a new puppet and take over. And that's just, I was just like, John suddenly became a moron the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
Not
totally.
That he was, like, super brilliant to begin with,
no.
But like, are you that naive? You're like 45 now at this point.
Yeah, I know. Look, I'm fine with him. You know, he that was the whole thing with his character, pretty much, right? Is that, you know, he was reluctant. He basically couldn't get over his wife and daughter dying, and so he finally, Deja allowed him to move on and feel like he can, I don't know, love again or whatever. So you know, it makes sense that he would want to go back to that, because he finally made the choice to stay there. And then I think they said it was 10 Earth years was how long he'd been away from Mars. But yeah, I mean, things are going to be very different, like you said. And yeah, I mean, if the Therns are still there and if they haven't been able to fight them off, their whole plan was to just suck the planet dry. You might get there and there's nothing left. There's no planet.
Yeah, what if he gets there and, like, why is he able to breathe on Mars too?
Yeah, those are things we can't question, basically.
I'm gonna question it. Like, why can they breathe on? Why? Okay, maybe I can understand why the Zidanga and the helium or the Tharks can breathe on Mars. That's their home. That is what they've been inhabiting. I feel like John's lungs should have probably exploded the second he got there.
Probably, yeah.
Like, if the gravity is affecting the fact that he becomes superhuman,
yeah,
maybe that's why. Maybe because he's become a superhuman. So now I feel like there should have been some kind of like scene where he was like struggling to breathe and his body had to acclimate to
adjust,
being there, not just his jumping abilities.
Kind of like Man of Steel. Like when the Kryptonians, the other Kryptonians come to Earth and they're like, whoa, what's going on? You know?
Exactly. Oh, crap. I'm actually another alien being that has been acclimated to another planet's atmosphere and gravity my entire adult life. I'm going to get a little screwed up going to a different planet.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like that, but I guess we wouldn't have a story if John got up to Mars and then his lungs exploded. So.
Yeah.
But there was no like breathing apparatus or nothing like.
Yeah, I know there's nothing. I think there's some of the books. They're actually in a dome. The Martians live in a dome.
Why didn't we have a dome?
Yeah, the dome would have made more sense. Like if it was a dome inside some mountains or something where people couldn't really see it. I don't know, but
I would have been fine with a dome.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the big questions we got to ask about this film, right? So this film was a massive flop. Was this a deserving flop? Was this film terrible, or was it just kind of bad and missed the point, would you say?
I think it was just kind of bad, because I actually enjoyed watching it. Like, I enjoyed it. I have numerous critiques and issues with it, but it was entertaining. It kept me entertained. It had elements that I really enjoyed. The Tharks were my favorite part. I didn't mind any kind of, I think the set design was great. I think the cinematography and, production was very good. I think they used their money well in some points, but it comes down to story. And the story I feel like the story made it a flop. On top of the fact that it wasn't marketed properly, on top of the fact that nobody knew this movie was coming out. And I love a lot of what Andrew Stanton has produced, but that was his fault. It has been said numerous times he did not want to market this movie.
Yeah.
Why?
He didn't understand. He did, you know.
And I don't know how Disney let him get away with that either. I don't know how nobody stepped in and was just like, actually, we need to make a profit. That is what movies are ultimately about for studios, is a profit. And
yeah,
I think throwing some blame his way is appropriate, as well as someone at Disney just not stepping in and being like the one time a studio exec needed to step in and they didn't.
Yeah, so I don't know if you read about that situation. So there was basically a turnover at Disney around when this film got greenlit. So a new guy came in, and instead of like canceling stuff, he greenlit this and the Lone Ranger. Yeah, another massive flop.
Yeah, which I think the Lone Ranger was seriously prejudged because I don't hate it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's way too long. It is one movie that is just absolutely, there's so much you could have cut from that movie and it never would have been missed. But I don't hate it. I don't hate the movie.
It's also, that film feels very frivolous to me. There's just a lot of scenes where I'm just like there's a scene like they're on a train and it's just like everything's blowing up, everything's exploding, everyone's jumping, and it's like, what the hell?
I hate that scene because it didn't show, at least in old westerns, when they were going to do a train scene, that was a real freaking train. That was a real train and real stuntmen on horses who probably would have died. There's no suspense or fear for Armie Hammer, who I still can't think that's his real name. There's no fear for him because that's clearly a CGI horse. That's clearly a CGI person. I don't believe a horse would have survived a jump like that at all. And like the whole train scene was just absolutely terrible.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It was a monument to satisfy someone's ego, I feel like. Is that hubris?
Yeah, hubris sounds.
Yeah, I feel like that's the right word to use for a scene like that. It was just so much, and it was so bad, and I hate that scene. I hate it.
Yeah, and you know, you can spend a lot of budget on that, but like I get, you know, you get no feeling out of it. It's like the scene's over, you're like, why do I care about any of this? I don't feel any stakes. It's not visually interesting. Everything's fake. It's all fake. And you can feel the fakeness. And it's just like, I got nothing from it. Like,
yeah, I think how you described it was perfect. Frivolous. It was very frivolous. And yet there's elements of the movie that I do really enjoy. You know, I think it has it has that dark side of it that's really good. It has a cannibal as your villain. A cannibal. Like, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, that is really creepy.
In a Disney movie, having a cannibal as one of your villains. At the end of the day, though, like, it's kind of flat, though.
Yeah, it's super flat.
But I didn't hate it, though. I definitely didn't hate it, but I do feel a certain way about some of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of the problem. Was like the executive should have killed this film, basically, or at least cut the budget substantially. That didn't happen, and so I think they kind of just let him do his thing, and that was disastrous for Disney on a financial level. Because I feel like this was around the time when, so I think Avengers came out the same year.
Yeah, I was wondering what John Carter would have been competing with at the box office when it came out.
So John Carter came out in March, and like the Avengers came out, I think probably like the next month. And I think that transition had just basically started to happen, where now those were Disney films. But I feel like that one, I really strongly remember that film being distributed. Like, when you saw the stuff come up, it was Paramount. Like, the Paramount logo came up for the Avengers film. Yeah, so I think there was a lot going on at Disney where they didn't really handle this thing, fell through the cracks. I feel like that's the best way to put it. And, you know, so another thing that I think needs to get brought up is the fact that Andrew Stanton and a lot of these other, Brad Bird's another one, they've had trouble transitioning to making live action films. The mediums are just too different, and their process that works for creating animated films doesn't really work for live action films. So I read somewhere that they reshot like 70% of this movie. Yeah.
70% of the movie in a 2.5 hour long film, or maybe not 2.5 hours, 2 hours and some change.
Yeah,
That's
and so
to reshoot.
And the reason why is that in the animation process, they can tinker with the story kind of dramatically. And so sometimes they'll basically like they'll even redo whole plot points or story arcs to try and make it better if they feel like something doesn't work. Like they can like basically, I don't know if you say previs or like create a version of one part of the story and then play it out and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, they can just scrap it and then just build something else. And then there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of like, coming up with different ideas on how to solve story problems. And in a film, you can't really do that. You get a couple shots at it and you got to just like make it work. Otherwise, you're just spending tons of money.
Yeah, I'm still on the 70% reshoot thing. That's insane to me. I can't.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Another, just to give you another example of this is something I learned recently. So Brad Bird, he was the guy who did like The Incredibles. Before that, he did The Iron Giant. I mean, these are some incredible films, amazing films that are animated. So he was brought in to do one of the Mission Impossible films. I think that one's Rogue Nation or something like that.
Okay.
That was another one where he struggled to the point where they brought in Christopher McQuarrie and Christopher McQuarrie and Doug Liman to basically take over the film from him.
This guy was like ready to snap.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that, probably Tom Cruise wasn't happy. And so, he brought in his guys. But, basically the point I'm making is like these Pixar guys, they've had trouble transitioning to doing live action films. And it's not, the being great at, making the Pixar animated film does not translate into the live action film working.
And it kind of reminds me of how like silent actors had, most of them couldn't transition to doing talkies. You know what I mean? Like their voice never mattered before because nobody could hear them. And then all of a sudden it's like maybe Rudolph Valentino has a high-pitched voice that isn't as masculine as we thought it was. Whoops. But like, yeah, that's what it kind of reminds me of. I can imagine that it must be pretty difficult to going from directing something that's animated, that most of it is left to the artist and to the creation of how it's going to look, than to do a live action $200 million film that takes place on Mars. So it's like, yeah, I could easily do that in an animated movie. No freaking problem. Maybe John Carter would have worked better as an animated film. It might have just worked better. I mean, get rid of the stupid villains that do nothing in the whole movie, then yeah, we'll talk. But yeah, I can imagine that it must have been a difficult transition for him as well. You're working with live people, take after take after take. It must be very different than working in a sound with one person.
Mm-hmm. Or like WALL-E.
Or WALL-E, which is a science movie for the first like 30-40 minutes of the film before anything starts talking. And when we do have a little bit of dialogue when they're still on Earth, it's WALL-E, Eva. Yeah. It's two words. Yeah, it's literally 2 words that are being passed back and forth. It's kind of like the I am Groot, you know what I mean? Like saying something, but what is he? He's only saying the same thing.
Yeah, what is he saying? Yeah.
Exactly.
And so to bring up, again, the point I talked about before, I think so, and it's kind of makes sense that we would talk about this and the fact that, the Avengers came out the same year and was way more successful. Like, this is basically a prototype of the superhero story, but it came out, it doesn't have the same cultural relevance for us, It's just not there, and all the predecessors, all the Star Warses and the other characters that are sort of in the same vein as John Carter, we've already through the cultural osmosis taken that in, and John Carter's kind of been left in the wayside, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, I've already kind of seen it, and I've seen it done better. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, it was kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like, sometimes something's cultural relevance, its time is past, and maybe this was one of those instances where it was kind of just, I don't know, just kind of meh.
I think it could have maybe worked if they had a 21st century approach where it's like, you know, some person from our current time, they accidentally go to this place on Mars. It would have to be in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
You can't just have some person show up on Mars. It's just not going to work for. It's not going to work for us. But then they, you know, it's like a person they're thrown into this world where there's a lot of like the sword and sandal stuff, but maybe they have a little bit of advanced technology. I think that would have been a better way to go. I think.
Or like if it had still been like the, maybe he gets there, maybe he finds like a leftover. I'm trying to put. Okay, so let's say it was taking place underground, like in the core of Mars or something like that. He gets zapped there, and he's like, "Oh shit, I can't breathe." But happens to, by coincidence, of course, be near an old structure that is still breathable, and he can get inside, and he's fine. And something from below realizes, "Hey, something just dropped out of the sky onto our planet. Let's go see what it is." And that's where maybe something like the Tharks come in. You still have that plot of him being introduced to the Tharks or another civilization. And just take the story from there. I think it would have worked. You still could have given him like the veteran background and stuff like that. That is always pretty compelling to audiences. Still could have given him the past of like losing his wife and kid. Maybe he was stationed overseas or something, and something terrible happened to his family, and he's never been the same since. And he's just kind of a loner. And is given this second chance, albeit on Mars, but a second chance nonetheless. I think it still could have worked with a 21st century setting instead of this
very hodgepodge, like their
1800s approach to it. It's just kind of meh.
And that's, you know, that is the difficult part of adaptations, is like knowing where to toe the line. And how to really bring life into a property that sort of needs a pick-me-up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, because I feel like I know there's something like this that's happened in the last couple of years where it was like, probably not something this old, because, again, this is 100 years old, but maybe something a little bit, maybe 50, 60 years old that people kind of, you know, brought some life into. I'd have to think about it more. But, you know, I think adaptation is hard. Adaptation is really hard. And, you know, like sometimes you got to make big, bold choices and change things.
Yeah. I was after this movie was over, I was left feeling the same way I felt when I finished watching Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Where I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like Abraham Lincoln is like the Mars. Like, hey, I know that there is no civilization on Mars, and I know Abraham Lincoln was not a vampire hunter. That is ridiculous.
You know what I love? What I love about that film is like there's literally one scene where they show him training with like an axe or something, right?
Yeah, he used an axe, which I actually liked. I didn't mind the axe part, but like that's it. It's like
they just show him training, like throwing it, and then he's a master.
Yeah, he's just a master vampire hunter while running a country that's in turmoil. I'm like, yeah, and you know what? What makes it worse is that I know how it ends for Lincoln, and it's not great. Like the end scene is him literally going to the play.
He's going to the play. Yeah.
So I just fell in love with this very fictional version of Lincoln, and now you're sending him to the play. What the hell?
Right. It's like this whole thing is alternative history, but you just still decide to shoot him in the head.
Like it's still that, like his friend who was a vampire the whole time too is just like watching him go, I think, or something, or someone's watching him leave. And they're just like, what a great guy. bang. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Dumb. But
Totally.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way. We're just kind of like, okay, it was entertaining, but it's like bad, right?
Yeah.
Like,
It was kind of entertaining. Acting was okay. So you like Taylor Kitsch in this?
yeah,
Right?
I liked him. I thought he was good, for the role he was playing, and the plot that he was given. I think he did a decent job. I think he's a fantastic actor. Watch him in something else if you didn't like this, because he is really, really good. And I forgive him for Gambit, because that wasn't his fault. I don't think that was his fault. I'm tired of blaming actors for, like, there's more things that go on for an actor, especially early in their career, that they have no control of. Taylor Kitsch is not Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise can literally dictate, or an Edward Norton. They can dictate whatever the frick they want on a set.
Absolutely.
I'm Tom Cruise, and I know I know every one of your skeletons. I know all of them, and I can control this. You are not the director. I am the star. It's okay that Gambit wasn't great. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. Watch other things. He's very good.
Yeah, I do kind of wish that they could have found a lead woman that kind of created more chemistry. I thought that the character, I think they wrote her okay, but yeah, there needed to be a little bit more something there.
I feel she was too much of other female characters from stories like this than her own character. She's brainy, she's brilliant, she can wield a sword. She also falls from really high places a lot, only to be grabbed. So she's still a damsel, but she's not really a leader. She's not really trying to lead her people. She's just trying to save them, which is fine. Like, you can just want to be like that savior thing. But she was too much of an amalgamation of other people, other characters that I like. That she wasn't really her own person either.
Agreed. There was, I feel like the things that worked was Tars Tarkas,
yes,
Walla, and Sola.
Yes.
Right? That really worked. Those, like, the Tars Tarkas and John Carter relationship worked.
And I think what might have worked better is if it hadn't been this stupid feud that I don't even know what the motivation was behind between Helium and Zendanga. Freaking Django over here. Instead of it being maybe about Zendanga trying to destroy all the Tharks or something like that. This smaller civil. Oh, why do the Tharks have guns, but Helium just has swords? They have these massive flying ships that have like blasters and things like that, but they just use swords. Like, meanwhile, the Tharks have got like these muskets.
Yeah, they got muskets. Yeah, like they're the British or something.
Who is the more technologically advanced? Because I can't tell. Like, one has guns, one uses swords with blasters, and it's just. But yeah, if it had just been about maybe the Tharks being like eradicated from Mars or something, it was like this maybe I hate to say this, maybe like this genocide plot almost against the Tharks from like the Zendanga or something like that. Maybe that would have felt a little more like the stakes would have been a little bit higher. Especially
if like we get rid of the conspiracy aliens, and instead it's like her dad wants her to marry this guy, and they're going to together kill all the Tharks.
And she's like, no, that's bad.
She's like, no. And that's why she leaves the wedding. And then she meets John, and, the two of them want to do regime change and create a peaceful resolution. I feel like, and he's already been kind of integrated into the Thark society. He's become kind of like this hero to them in a way. Maybe he still destroys like a Zendanga ship that was going to kill all of them. And they're like, yeah, he's fighting for us. And that's awesome. And she gets pulled into that whole plot as well because, hey, genocide is terrible. I feel like it would have been a more compelling story that way instead of two rich people, from what I see, fighting each other for no reason. That's a great point. Like, why do we care about this battle between Zendanga and Helium? Why? Like, we don't know. We don't know why they're at war. Why are they fighting each other? Who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows? And because the battle predates the whatever the Therns showing up and doing their plot.
Yeah.
They've been fighting before that. They just tipped the scale.
Yeah.
But we never really get the answer to why the conflict started in the first place.
No, it was just because they're fighting.
Just because, yeah.
It's like, no, I have to know why I'm caring. I'm not just going to care because Disney's telling me to.
Exactly, yeah.
Leave me alone. Here's my money, but leave me alone.
Yeah, this movie had left a lot to be desired, but I do think, there are some good characters in it. There are some sweet moments, and the ILM did a good job with the special effects. And there's some entertainment value in it.
Yeah, like I said, I have things to criticize, but it did its job in entertaining me. So I guess that's something.
So would you ever want to see a sequel to this?
Want or just watch because I want to see how much better or worse it gets. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm jonesing for an Alita Battle Angel sequel. But
yeah, but not this, right?
Not this.
Yeah. I think this is one that you probably would be good to let it lie. You know what? A lot of people have been talking about. A big thing that's been talked about recently with some people is like, is it better to have a adaptation that's a television show or a movie? And, what are the pros and cons of each medium? So I feel like this might be something where the merits of a TV show could maybe give us more weight to, the story, possibly. Maybe that would be a better route.
And maybe focus more on the world building aspect of it and give us some better villains and at least tell me what the Therns are. Like, you can't just say I'm an immortal being and expect me to just buy it. Again, it's kind of like you can't expect me to just care because you tell me to. I have to be invested in some way.
Yeah.
So maybe giving the Therns a little bit more of a backstory, like a real backstory, where it came from and why they are doing all of this. Then the TV show element would probably, be a little bit better in that regards than a franchise.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think you gotta. I think if they're ever going to do this again, they gotta rethink it. They gotta make it for our time period. I think that's the main thing you gotta do, whether it be a TV show or a movie. I
agree. You gotta update it a little bit. The post-Civil War element just doesn't always work. It really doesn't, unless the whole movie's going to be about post-Civil War society. But it's not. It's just a backdrop of it. It's just the starting point.
Yeah, I like the way you talked about like have the person still be a veteran, but like they could be a veteran of like the war in Iraq or Afghanistan or something like that.
Exactly. You can still have that element. It's still, like I said, compelling. Audiences connect with it. And it's something that I think is still incredibly relevant. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that covers everything. If anyone, has comments, they want to let us know what they think of this film or what they think could have been changed or improved. There's a lot to discuss there, I think.
I agree. Like, we just came up, I think, with like 2 or 3 different other ways this movie could have gone that would have, at least we think, would have been better.
Yeah.
But I would hope other people have their own ideas how it could have been a lot better. Yeah.
It probably could be a cool discussion. I think that wraps everything up. Was there any other stuff you wanted to talk about with this film, or?
No, I'm good. I think we covered all of it, honestly.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I think it was a good discussion because, like, with films like this, there's always like, it's a little more opinionated, right? Like, there's a lot to think about. It's like, why doesn't it work? And sometimes that's a harder question than like looking at a masterpiece. Figuring out why something doesn't work is really hard sometimes to puzzle.
It is, because like, if we can talk about a movie like, I don't know, like The Godfather, like there's so many elements of why it does work because it's just a good story. It's compelling regardless of the fact that our main characters are technically the bad guys.
Yes.
It makes us care about this family.
Mm-hmm.
It still made us care. We still care about the Corleones. We still want to know what happens to them. That's why there's 3 freaking movies, because we wanted more. We couldn't leave.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, story is a hard thing to puzzle out and figure out, but that's the fun part of watching movies.
Exactly.
When you see that good movie, it just sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks a lot, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and take care, and may the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.